After losing everything I had worked hard towards and being humiliated in front of all of my friends, I had one clear goal in mind: get my revenge on this Minecraft player. But to understand why this all started, we need to go back a couple of years to the fateful day of August 29th, 2020.
I have $100,000 in cash and the best Minecraft players in the entire world.
After the Technoblade vs Dream Duel, 1.9 PvP started becoming more and more popular. With the rise of competition, a ranking system was created. Tiers 1 through 5, 1 being the highest and 5 being the lowest. The player I'll be getting my revenge on is the top of Tier 3, meaning he was within the top 20 best players in the world. His name was Capfory. I knew defeating this player wouldn't be easy, so I set myself a goal: train and do no matter what to defeat this player in 1 month. If I couldn't complete this task, then I'd force myself to retire and never play this game mode ever again. I started to spend hours upon hours trying my best to improve, but no matter how hard I would try, my efforts were futile. It seemed like all the skill I once had was completely gone, and I was ready to give up. Until one day out of the blue, I got a DM from one of my friends suggesting I should practice other PvP game modes. At first, I thought this was stupid, but with all my skills slowly fading away and with nothing to lose, I eventually decided to give these other game modes a try. Getting into these new game modes was a rough start. I didn't have the muscle memory or even the basics required for sword PvP, and lots of top players were trashing on me. So after being destroyed for hours at a time and my progress going nowhere, I did the only thing I could think of and decided to call one of my friends who happens to be one of the top ranked sword players in the entire world in order to teach me the ways of sword PvP. After being taught past the basics, the first advanced strat my friend would teach me was S-tapping, a straightforward technique that allows players to lock their opponents in sword combos. Over the next few days, when I was practicing sword, I'd heavily focus on this strategy. And after lots of practice, S-tapping was proven effective. And at this rate, I'd finally begin to see significant improvement. But while I couldn't confidently say I was skilled at sword PvP, I was able to take the occasional game off of some really good players, and I was able to master the basics of sword PvP. So after getting all the basics down, there was one last thing left to do. It was time to start playing Axe again and to put my sword skills to the test. After joining back Legacy and seeing all the swords online, there was a player who stuck out to me the most. A player with some of the best fundamentals and game sense in the entire Axe community. At one point he went even against Capfory, and had one of the toughest counters to my somewhat baity defensive playstyle. His name was Limited, so in order to test if all my hard work put into sword training was a waste of time, I decided I'd duel him in a best of 10. My plan was with my newly found sword skills, I'd be able to combo him whenever his shield was disabled. However, what was about to happen in this best of 10 I would have never seen coming. Halfway into the fight and the score was an even 2-2. If I could beat Limited, I would have a good chance of going head to head with Capfory. However, at this rate, nothing was going to change. This would be the round I would finally put my sword skills to the test to see if my hard work finally paid off. final score was a 6-4, and while the score wasn't that bad on paper, I knew I had miles to go before I could even compete with any of the top tier 3 players. I needed to change something. I needed to change something about my playstyle. Maybe sword mating isn't my thing or never was supposed to be. Maybe it was time to stop forcing things upon myself that I was never good at in the first place, and it was time to focus on what I was good at. However, what I didn't realize is that I was about to discover the next big strategy that would completely revolutionize my playstyle forever. My current strategy had a major flaw. It relied on getting up close in the opponent's face and being in range to punish them for their mistakes. Big shocker, this would put myself close enough to be punished for my mistakes as well. I needed a new strategy that helped me escape these situations and to gain the upper hand at the same time. That's when I discovered shams. Instead of spacing out of my opponent's range when critting, I'd go behind and backstab them. This technique was extremely hard to pick up, and I was looking like an idiot for the first few days I was trying it. However, over time, I started getting really good at this strategy, and it was really starting to show as I was able to start taking games off of some of the best players in the entire world. Having the skill to defeat almost any tier 3 player that I would duel, my popularity would begin to rise in the community. Players from all around were discussing my recent improvement and unique playstyle in the community, and at this rate I was on track to becoming a top player. However, with my month of training being finally over, there was one last obstacle in my path. There was still one last tier 3 player that was considered better than me in a lot of aspects. A player with better shield disables, better bow aim, and has beaten me multiple times before. Being trained by some of the top players in the entire community, not many people even considered I could be on his level. His name was Capfory. But with my recent improvements, I was beginning to feel more and more confident about being able to take him on. So with over a month of preparation on the line and hours of practice, I reached out and challenged Capfory to a 1-20 duel. Everything was on the line. If I couldn't defeat him, all my practice would be for nothing, and I'd completely retire from the game mode. This was my last chance to finally prove I'd have the potential to be a top player and defeat my biggest rival yet. Before going into this fight, I had a strategy developed in mind. While Capfory had some really good shield disables, if I were to play safe and run away, relying on my bow and crossbow, I'd be able to slowly drain his HP out of harm's way. However, I'd soon realize the strategy would have its flaws. With Capfory being confidently ahead and the momentum being in his favor, things were not looking good for me. While constantly running and forcing bow exchanges would counter Capfory's shield disables, I never considered the fact he could outbow me. I noticed as I ran more, Capfory would outbow me and the losses from each round were beginning to add up. If I wanted to win, I would need to try a new strategy. My only chance was to get up close and to win the melee encounters. However, doing this would be incredibly risky as I'd put myself in front of some of the greatest shield disables in the entire community. If I ever wanted a chance to come back from being 4 points down, this was all I could do. If I even made a couple more mistakes, it'd be impossible to catch up to Capfory's massive lead, and my chances of being a top player would be over forever. I had done the unthinkable. Against one of the top players with a 4-game lead and with all the momentum in his favor, I managed to barely tie it up. The score was a 9-9 and it was anyone's game. The next few rounds would determine the entire set and who would come out on top. If I wanted to win this, I'd not only have to use everything that I'd learned over the last month, I couldn't make any more stupid mistakes, and if I didn't play near perfectly, I wouldn't have any chance at winning this, and Capfory would secure the title as not only the best tier 3, but also the player to most likely get tier 2. This was it. With over 2 years of playing on the server and a whole month of preparation leading up, this was the final test for not only me, but also for Capfory. Two of the best tier 3s and up and coming players nearing their prime with everything to lose, the next few duels were going to decide who'd come out on top and who would also have the opportunity at becoming the next top PvPer in the community. I was ahead 15-11, and it would seem that I'd have victory in the bag. However, what I didn't realize is that there was about to be one last surprise that would determine the winner of this duel, a variable that was both out of me and Capfory's control. My internet started becoming unstable, and due to this, it would end up costing me 2 rounds, and it seemed like Capfory was not only about to catch up, but if my internet were to continue lagging, there'd be a very high probability of him surpassing me. With Capfory constantly teleporting and reaching me, it felt like this was about to be impossible to win, and I was going to lose. Thinking back on the past month I spent training, it made me stop panicking. With the last of the lag dying down and the momentum in my favor, I was determined to find the counter to Capfory's playstyle. The rest of these duels were about to finish this rivalry, whether I was going to win or lose. The final score would be a 20-14 for me. For the time, I had at least proven myself the better player, having claimed the unofficial title as best tier 3, and it had taken me a month of dedication to rise the ranks in this PvP community. But now, there was no one left to get in my way of tier 2, a goal not only strive for hundreds of players, but would be the final goal in my PvP journey. All that was left was to take on and defeat the best players in the entire world, and while my PvP skills have dramatically improved, I would soon learn that this journey would be far from over.